Autism-Live. We are here with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. He's the head of research and development at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, and he's talking with us about wandering, eloping, bolting when our kids leave the area without permission and how terrifying that is. So we've identified what it is, and I think the thing that was the single most shocking thing about this week when we talked about this here on the show, what happened with Avonte Oquendo, and I was saying, this is terrible because it didn't need to happen. He left his school, and that there's training that could be done so that this didn't have to happen. And so many parents, Dr. Tarbox, wrote to me and said, you're talking about this as if there's something you can do about it. And that, to me, I got to tell you, my stomach sank and I said, we're not getting it done. If these parents are feeling like this is just something that they have to live with and they're going to live with the fear, then I have not done my job. Right. So that's part of the reason why we're talking about what can we do about it and how do we go about taking these behaviors on to get better.
Okay. All right. So unfortunately, elopement is one of those behaviors that is extremely challenging to treat effectively and to deal with. Kind of like when we talk about stereotypy or self-stimulatory behaviors, it's just one of the major challenges of autism that even if you do a great job, it could still take a year or two to see really major changes.
But that doesn't mean we don't do it.
No, absolutely not. In fact, it means the opposite. It means we need to try even harder and work even harder on it. Especially since we cannot afford to mess up even once. I mean, we just can't afford. It's a behavior that's so serious that actually it's a lot like leaving a loaded gun around, right? Even if our children know what to do when they see a loaded gun, we're not going to leave a loaded gun on the coffee table, right? Because it only takes one time of playing with that gun to end somebody's life. Elopement is exactly the same thing. And unfortunately, this child whose remains were discovered this week is not the first one, and he's not going to be the last, and it's going to happen again. And again, not just kids on the spectrum, typically developing kids too. It's really critical. We can't let the behavior happen even once. And so other behaviors, other challenging behaviors, we actually kind of want them to happen so we can place them on extinction, because then that teaches the child, look, the behavior is not going to work. You're not going to get what you want. So, for example, with tantrums, if the child is tantruming to get your attention, great. Let them tantrum. Don't pay attention to it, right? Do pay attention to the child when they're not tantruming or when they're asking for attention, and that will make the tantruming go away. It works. It's proven to work. With elopement, man, we can't let that behavior happen even once. So it's more challenging to treat in a lot of ways. So really, honestly, the very first step is to pretend that your child had the language to tell you, I'm going to run away when you're not looking. So you better get ready for that. And just think about, if your child dared you, I'm going to run away from you when you're not looking. If they said that vocally to you, how would that change your behavior? What would you do under those circumstances? And you should be doing that. Right? Because that behavior, when it happens, even though they can't tell you that necessarily, they might not have the language skills to tell you that, that is what they're telling you. It's the same thing. Mom or teacher, I'm going to run away from you when you're not looking. It's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and where. And so what steps would we take if the kid literally looked you in the eye and said that? All right.
That's powerful.
Right? Does it put it? Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So the number one thing that we would do is make it physically not possible for the kid to do it. Okay? And that's not a very good behavioral or skill learning or teaching-based solution, but it's the first thing we got to do.
And it's a great safety solution. It's
absolutely.
By no means the last thing.
No,
but it's the first thing.
It's the first thing, exactly. And it's not a permanent solution. But things like, if it's an open area that we can't possibly physically enclose, then there has to be an adult that stays within arm's length of the child all the time, without exception.